Something big is brewing as two of the best teams in the NHL are set to face off in the second round of the playoffs. And with both teams riddled by injuries, one team in particular has a lot of soul searching and questions to answer in this series. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Hattrick HQ. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 72% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening around the NHL, playoff previews, all that fun stuff, and of course, updates on the Dallas Stars and the Winnipeg Jets, we see the support in the comments and on the channel. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. It is free, and you get to stay up to date with everything going on around the league. But let's dive right into it, KC. This is going to be an electric series between the Winnipeg Jets and the Dallas Stars, and I think there's a lot of question marks on both ends right now. I think Dallas's future is a little clearer. We'll get to that in a bit as well. But to kick it off, what are you seeing from this series? First of all, it's going to be absolutely electric. There's a lot of star power, and both teams just went to Game 7s that were arguably some of the best Game 7s we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, this is going to be a great series. And like you said, both teams coming off a 7-game series. They're both going to be around the same, tiredness level. There's no advantage on either side when it comes to the winning in the amount of games in this series. But I think it's going to be great. I think we have the first in this team in the Central in the regular season versus the second team in the Central in the regular season. So, this is going to be a good matchup. And on both sides of the coin here, it kind of differentiates because Dallas has such a hot offense right now. And, Winnipeg has probably one of the hottest defenses in the core right now. So it's a really good matchup between both of these sides. And I know we're going to dive into it a little bit more, but I'm very excited for this one.
Absolutely. And again, it should be absolutely electric. And when you look at the Dallas Stars, we can kind of start with them and their goal scoring. Mikko Rantanen leading the way for the Dallas Stars. And don't worry, Jets fans, we'll get to the Jets in a second because there's a lot to get to there, believe me. But Mikko Rantanen leading the way with the Dallas Stars. And I thought what the Dallas Stars did in round one was very impressive. They completely stripped down the Colorado Avalanche to the studs. The Avalanche were a team that really threw everything at the wall at the trade deadline, completely rebuilt their team. Honestly, credit where credit's due. They completely rebuilt their team on the fly this year. No other team has ever done that, especially with the goaltending. So what they were able to do to the Avalanche was very impressive with a bunch of injuries. Jason Robertson hasn't played in the playoffs yet. Miro Heiskanen, one of the best defensemen in the league, hasn't played in this playoffs yet. And they're both set to return in this series. Do you think that's going to kind of, mess up the dynamic of the team at all? I don't think it will, obviously getting two great players back. But what is getting them back do for the team? Because you got guys stepping up like Wyatt Johnson. We know he's a great player, but he's stepping up. Thomas Harley, people are really learning what Thomas Harley's all about. He's going to be a star in this league. So, do you think adding these two guys back into the lineup is going to mess up the chemistry, or are they going to be that much more dangerous?
It's only gonna make them better. Getting a guy like Jason Robertson, who, yes, maybe he had more of a down year than what he was used to in the regular season, but we know how good this guy is. He's such a tremendous goal scorer. His shot is next level, and getting a guy like that back is going to amplify your offense even more than what it is right now, which is crazy to think about because, Rantanen, like you said, was a big guy for them in this series, having, was it a third period hat trick against his former team to then secure them that series. Just shows how clutch this guy is, and it really came back to bite the Avalanche in the butt for trading this guy, and just having him and adding a guy in Robertson here to play either alongside him or in this lineup is only going to make the goal scoring even more, and it's going to make Hellebuyck have a way harder task on his hand. And Heiskanen, we know how good of a defenseman this guy is. He's been the franchise defenseman for the Dallas Stars ever since he was drafted. So getting him back in this lineup is definitely going to help them for sure on the defensive side of the puck. This is a guy who can shut down top offenses like he's eating breakfast. That's how good of a defenseman this guy is, and he also has a big shot from back there as well. So getting both these guys back is definitely X factors in this series, and I think it's definitely something that a lot of people should look out for, and Winnipeg Jets should be hoping that it doesn't happen.
Absolutely, and I think, getting them back lengthens the lineup. They're still playing great, right? They won that Game 7, that 7-game series against a really good team in Colorado, and now they get two of the best players back, right? So it's going to be very interesting. And another thing in this series, because you spoke on Connor Hellebuyck a little bit as well, is going to be goaltending. I think it's always goaltending in almost every, playoff series, but this is going to be a big one. I mean, Jake Onger has been fantastic. A 9-11 in this year's playoffs, a 285 goals against average, which I think is more of a team stat, but still, it says something about a goalie. Because when you look over at the other side of Connor Hellebuck, he's sporting an 830 in this year's playoffs and a 385 goals against average. So, I mean, if Connor Hellebuck plays the way that he played in the first round, the Winnipeg Jets have no shot in this series. But I'm not so sure that that's going to happen. Again, I want to throw it over to you and your thoughts on Connor Hellebuck because before I do that, I just want to say that, again, if he plays the way that he did in the first round, the Jets have no chance here. I mean, the Stars are just going to eat this team alive. It doesn't matter how good your offense is, how good the power play is going, how good your defense is. It really does not matter. You need goaltending in a series like this, and it's going to be a long and tight series. So I don't believe that that's going to happen. I think the mental block, everything we've been talking about, I think he left that in the past in the first round. That's what he needed to get past because ever since 2018, he hasn't been able to do that, right? So I think that he was able to do that. He actually settled in very nicely into Game 7 as well. So I think that might be gone. But KC, do you still see that being a factor? And you think goaltending is going to be or play as big as a factor in this series as everyone seems to believe?
Yeah, it always is a big factor in this, especially when you have one of the best goaltenders in the league in Hellebuck not playing up to standard. I mean, allowing almost 4 goals a game in the playoffs, you can't do that. I know it is kind of a team stat, and, it doesn't all come back on the goaltender right here, but there has been some goals in this last series, and I know Jets fans will agree with me that, maybe Eric Comrie would have stopped. You know what I mean? Like, not taking away from how good of a goalie Hellebuck is. It just seems like in that last series, in the first round, he had this mental block, and it just was letting pucks go in that normally don't go in against Hellebuck. It was stuff that we haven't seen from him probably since he came up from the AHL. That's how long it's been since we've seen Hellebuck been, that shaky in the crease. So it is going to play a big factor into this because if you're giving up almost 4 goals against St. Louis, not to take anything away from that team, but Dallas has such a better offense than what the St. Louis Blues did have. So if you're giving up 4 to them, you can bump that up by 2 to 6 if that's the way he's playing. It sucks to say because I really like Hellebuck and I think he's such a great goaltender. But when you have Ottinger here on the other coin, who's posting a 9.31 save percentage, he's a young guy. He's still only 26 years old, which blows my mind. Yeah. This guy is one of the hottest goaltenders in the playoffs right now. Very under talked about, and he's going to be a hard one to score on for this Winnipeg Jets team. So if they start going down in games 2-0, 3-0, like we seen in the last series, it's going to be a hard feat to climb back up. So hopefully, I said in the last Jets video we did, Hellebuck is going to flip a switch here and get an extra boost from winning that series and get back to his old self. And I think that's what we're going to see here.
Yeah, I think that is very likely at this point. It could go the other way, right? Much of the same could continue, but I think that was a really good point there. And I think when you look at the Winnipeg Jets too, another storyline coming into this series is how many injuries they're dealing with as well. It looks like Mark Scheifele, again, lots of speculation, could be a concussion, right? Josh Morrissey, he got hurt in Game 7 as well, missed almost the entire game. But it says a lot about this team that they went, without Mark Scheifele. They went without Josh Morrissey for almost the entire Game 7. Neil Pionk was playing almost 50 minutes in that game, and they still won the game. They found a way to come back and win that game. So it does say a lot about the team, and I think that that's going to translate to the next round as well. And again, the Dallas Stars are going to get a bunch of players back, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. This is the schedule for, pretty routine schedule for this series, one day in between games. So it's going to happen very quickly. Both teams are going to be, have to be ready to go here because, it doesn't matter if you're dealing with injuries. This is the playoffs, and I'm sure a lot of guys are playing through injury. One guy I wanted to highlight too from the Dallas Stars, I am curious about your thoughts on this too before we wrap up, and how the Winnipeg Jets can maybe contain him is, Wyatt Johnson. He's been fantastic since he's come into the league, and he's continuing to do that in this year's playoffs. So I could really see him being a player, alongside Mikko Rantanen, because of course he's going to be a constant, right? He's an elite player in this league. But Wyatt Johnson, do you think this is a series he goes off in? Is he going to be an X factor for the Dallas Stars? Is he a guy that maybe the Winnipeg Jets have to put a lot of attention to detail in this series?
Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about Wyatt Johnson. Ever since I seen this guy step on the ice for the Dallas Stars, I fell in love with this guy. He's one of my favorite players in the league right now, so he's going to be a hard one to contain, especially coming off such a great season, more of a breakout year. I know he had a good year last year as well, but this guy in the playoffs this year has just been finding a different way to score and create scoring chances. It's going to be a tough player for the Jets to navigate. I know they have a great defensive core, but I do think that the Jets could potentially shut this guy down, and we're going to have to wait and see here, Darius. It's going to be an interesting series. The Dallas Stars have a lot of offense coming at them, but on the other side, the Jets have Connor, who has been playing good as well.
Absolutely. Kyle Connor. I mean, there's a lot of equals in this series. It's going to be really fun to watch, honestly. Both teams are dealing with a lot of adversity. Both teams went to a Game 7. Both teams have very high octane offense, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, speaking of fun, this is the fun part of the video where we give our predictions on the series. So, Casey, I'm going to throw it over to you once again. Who do you have winning the series? How many games?
Yeah, I know I pumped the tires of the Dallas Stars a lot here in this video, and it kind of made me think that I'm going to pick Dallas, but I'm going on the other side. I'm going to pick Winnipeg in 6 games here. I think Winnipeg coming off that, 1.6 second tying goal to then win in second overtime. The momentum is flowing in Winnipeg right now, and I think there's not a team that's going to be able to stop them even as good as the Dallas Stars. So I got the Winnipeg Jets in 6 here, and I think we're going to see a huge bounce back from Hellebuck and just him showing why he deserves to win the Vezina this year.
And like we talked about a lot in this video, the mental block. Once you get over that, we've seen it with a lot of teams, anything's possible. So I think that's a good pick. But I'm going to go on the other side. I'm going to go with the Dallas Stars. I'm going to go in 7 games as well. And it's going to be a similar series, I think, to the St. Louis Blues series, where I feel like a lot of the time the home team is going to win the games, except for Game 7, which would be the Dallas Stars. So picking Dallas Stars in 7, I think they're just too strong of a team. I think when fully healthy, which I expect them to be in this series, they're going to be too much to handle for almost any team in this league. I have them going to the Stanley Cup final, so should be very interesting to watch. But let us know in the comments who you think is going to win this series. Again, the support from Jets fans, Stars fans on the channel has been unbelievable. So let us know down below who you have winning the series, how many games, and why. We're curious to see why, because both these teams got a lot going on, that's for sure. But let us know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything Winnipeg Jets, Dallas Stars, and of course, everything around the league.